Hi lovelies, welcome back. Now, do you have pieces of fabrics leftover fabrics that you're not using? Okay, join me. Let's see what I'm gonna make out of my leftover fabrics. So these are the leftover of different fabrics that I have in my things, and I'm going to try and make something out of it. I'm thinking of a blouse because I don't want these fabrics, beautiful fabrics, to go to waste. They are very colorful ankara, so I'm going to try and make a beautiful blouse or top out of it. Let's get started. So I first start with the green one. Is green, red, and I think blue. So I'm going to start with the green one. Like I said, they are just scraps of fabric, so I'm going to manage it to fit the kind of blouse that I'm thinking of. So first off, I'm going to do the top. But before that, I'm thinking of a tiered dress, meaning a three joint step dress. So the length is going to be like 21. I'm thinking of 21 or 20. So if it's 21, I'm going to divide the 21 by 3, which is 7. So I need just 7 strands or 7 inches length of fabrics to join together to get the length of my 21 that I'm looking for. So I'm starting with this first green fabric. I'm going to take my first 7, and then I'm going to add maybe half or 1 inch for sewing allowance. So that is what I'm doing on this, and my fabric is not on the same it's some part of it is cut out, so I'm just making use of the part that I can get the majority, or I can get the vast parts of the fabric to work with. And since the back has a loop, I'll need a portion for to create the loop. So meaning the back is going to be a little bigger than the front. Let's say, for example, we are adding 2-inch zipper allowance for a dress, but this one I'm just adding 1 inch for the back to create the opening for the back. So I take my back measurements, that's from my shoulder to my chest, which is 7 plus 1 inch, which is 8. And then I take my shoulder slant, I take my armhole, and then this is what I have. So just to manage my fabric, I chose to cut the back side first, just so I can figure out how to get the front from the rest of the fabric. Bear in mind that I'm managing just scraps of fabric, so I chose to do the bigger part first. So after cutting the bigger part, which is the back, I'm just going to place it back on the left over of the fabric to create or to get the front. But I'm going to fold in the portion or the 1 inch I added to create the back opening. I'm going to fold that side in and iron. So after folding that side in, I place it on my fabric, and then I cut the front because there is no opening for the front. There is no need for me to add that 1 inch I added at the back. So I fold that 1 inch back so that I cut the front from it. So this is it. After folding that side in, now I can say I have my front and back pieces ready. So I'm going to take my neck depth from now. So I'm making use of 3 by 5 to create a neck depth for the front, and then 3 by 1.5 for the back. Bear in mind that what I'm cutting is the two together. I mean the front and back together, placed together on top of each other, right? So after cutting the neck for the back, I separate it and then I separate or open the back as well. Remember the inches I left for the back opening, I open it up. Now for the neck, for the front, I go and cut that out because the back was just 1.5 inches depth, and then the front was lower, which is 5. So this is what I have for the front, and that is what I have for the back. So 2 pieces for the back. You see I separated it, so I have both the left and the right side of the back. For the other parts, or the rest of the fabric, like I said, I'm doing a tier dress, so, or 3 steps dress. So the first part is done. Now left with the middle and the last part. So this is going to be the middle part. Like I said earlier, the length of the entire dress is going to be 20, or let's say 21. So 21 divided by 3, since it's a 3-step dress, would be 7. So each part I need the length to be 7. I've already cut the shoulder to chest, which is 7, out already. Now I need from the chest to say the waist area to be 7 as well. So I fold my fabric, then I measure the length 7 with 1 inch sewing allowance, making 8. So I cut that out as well. It's very important to indicate the wrong and right side of these fabrics because sometimes they get confusing. So since I'm working with front and back, I need to divide this into 2. It was on fold, so I divided it into 2. So I have 2 pieces now, 1 for the back, 1 for the front. So now I bring back the last fabric, which is the blue one. I do same, I fold it inwards and then make sure I get the 2 pieces for the front and for the back. But these pieces I needed to join them because it wasn't long enough, so I needed to cut portions of it to join them into a longer strip for me. So I'm going to sew them together, make sure that each strand is long enough for me to gather. So this is what we have for the cutting. So for the cutting process, we are done. This is what we have. I'm sure you can already guess what I'm trying to make, right? Yeah, it is a gathered dress or a gathered top. So I'm going to gather my second and third pieces to the first piece like this. I'm going to gather the first strand, attach it to the top, and then do same for the last and attach it to the second like this. Yeah, as you can see, right, it's going to turn out very beautiful. The fabrics are so colorful and so nice. That is our ankara for you. Okay, so for the front, or for the top part, this is how I am going to make the top. I'm just going to join shoulder to shoulder. Since this doesn't come with any interface lining or anything like that, it's a very simple casual blouse. I'm going to join the shoulder to shoulder, and then after joining, I'm just going to pipe the neck with bias tape so that I'll have a neat finishing for the neck. Now I finished joining the shoulders. I'm going to show you, just in case you're new and you don't know how to pipe the neck. I'm just quickly showing you how you can pipe your neck with bias tape. So you take your fabric and then you take the bias tape on the right side. You place the bias tape on it. Now you know the bias tape has two folds. When you look at it carefully, it has two folds. So now you place it on your fabric and you open one side of the fold, and then you sew that side that you've opened, that one side of the fold. I think it's about a quarter of an inch. Yeah, so you sew, use that as a guiding line. Then you sew that all around your neck area, as you can see that I am doing, with the bias tape placed on your fabric, using the side that is fold, the quarter inch that is fold, as your guidance. You sew along that quarter inch all round on both your fabric and the bias tape. Okay, so after sewing it on the bias tape, you make sure you notch, since it's a round, as you can see it's a round neck, so just notch all the curves so that it can relax. Notch or make small cuts all around the curve as I'm doing. Just small cuts all around that curve so that you'd have a relaxed finishing when you're done. Now after notching, you flip back the bias tape to the wrong side. Remember, we started sewing from the right side, so after you're done sewing from the right side, you flip it back to the wrong side, and then you top stitch or you sew all around again. You top stitch all around the bias tape on the fabric. I hope you understand. First, you place the fabric on the right side, open one side of the fold of the bias, and then sew along. After you're done sewing that, you flip the whole bias back to the wrong side of the fabric and you top stitch along it. To hem your necklines or armhole area with a bias tape, this is just one of the ways. There are other ways you can use bias tapes as well. Okay, so this is how it looks after it's done. Very neat, very neat, and easy to make. Now I close the back opening, leaving about 4 or 5 inches for the opening, because this is around 7-8 and I'm not going to need all that for the opening. So I'm just going to open or use about 5 inches downwards as my opening and seal the rest completely. So this is what I have after closing the back. So this is what I have. This is what the right side looks like. So now I'm going to bring back my pieces of the other two steps of the dress and then gather them. Gather them meaning I'm going to use a gather stitch to create or to gather the fabrics like this and attach it to the first step, which is the shoulder to chest area. I'm going to gather this and add it or sew it to the shoulder to the chest. And then for the last piece, which is the blue one, I'm also going to do the same, gather it and attach it to this one. So for the gathering, you use the highest number on your machine, which is 5, and then you create or you stitch on your fabric, giving you the gathering stitch. Now afterwards, you pull the strands. You know that you have two strands on the fabric, so you just pull one of the strands and then you draw it together. You draw it together. You draw it together. That is how you make a gathering on a fabric. You just, on your stitch, you have two strands. You just pull one strand and then you pull it through to your desired length that you're looking for. So this is what I have done, as you can see. So I'm going to do this same for the rest of my pieces, and then I'm going to attach them one to the other. So with this first one, I'm going to attach it like so to my front piece, and I'm going to do same, attach it to the back, and the last part of my blouse, which is a blue fabric, I'm going to gather it again and then add it to the second part, which is the red one. Just make sure that your gathering is equal to each of the step. So as you can see, the gathering of the red one was equal to the width of green top. So is the blue going to be equal to the width of the red one. So I'm going to attach all of them and show you the final look. So guys, as you can see, I am done and this is the finished look. I attached the last part of it and then this is the finished look. For my armhole area, I also added bias. I turned it in with bias, so I used bias to finish the armhole area, and now this is how it looks. I told you it was going to turn out very nice, right? This is a cute top, really colorful and beautiful. And for the back, I attached a loop and then a button to close the back. So if you have leftover pieces of fabrics that you can't use to sew a whole dress, but you can join them together to make something nice and beautiful as this, please follow this tutorial and then don't throw your pieces of fabrics away. This is very beautiful, right? I know. So try it. Let's see. Very easy steps to follow to get these. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Please like and subscribe.